The glass towers of New York City gleamed under the morning sun, but inside the high-rise headquarters of Sterling Enterprises, tension was running higher than the stock market. Billionaire CEO Richard Sterling, known for his sharp suits and sharper tongue, paced the length of his office like a lion in a cage. Sterling Enterprises was on the verge of losing a deal worth billions. One mistake, one overlooked detail, and his empire could crumble overnight. His top executives had been pulling all-nighters, consultants were flown in from Harvard and Stanford, and yet, after weeks of effort, no one had cracked the problem. "What am I paying you people for?" Richard barked, slamming his fist on the polished mahogany desk. His team shifted uncomfortably in their designer shoes. Not one of them had an answer. Meanwhile, down on the lower floors, the quiet hum of a vacuum cleaner echoed through the hallway. Clarence Brown, a janitor in his 50s, pushed his cart along the marble floors. He was the kind of man most people overlooked: graying hair, worn sneakers, hands calloused from years of hard work. But behind his gentle eyes was a mind sharper than anyone ever guessed. Clarence had once been an engineering student, passionate about numbers and problem-solving, but life had dealt him a rough hand. His father fell ill, bills piled up, and Clarence dropped out of college to support his family. He never made it back, but he never stopped learning. Every night, after long shifts, he read books from the library and solved puzzles for fun. That evening, as he emptied trash bins in the executive boardroom, Clarence overheard a heated conversation. Papers were scattered across the long oak table, filled with graphs, codes, and technical data. Richard's voice was unmistakable, sharp, frustrated. "This data breach could cost us everything. If we don't find the leak in the system, the deal with Carson Tech is dead. Do you understand?" "Dead." Clarence paused. His eyes flicked to the documents on the table. He recognized the patterns immediately. It was a system flow, riddled with errors that somehow everyone else had missed. To him, it was as obvious as a broken pipe in a kitchen sink. The executives stormed out, leaving the boardroom empty. Clarence stood there torn. He was just a janitor. What would they think if he said something? But then he thought of his own daughter, Maya, working her way through college, and how many times he'd told her never to let fear silence her voice. So he picked up a pen and scribbled a note on one of the documents, circling the error. Then he slipped it back under the stack, praying someone would notice. The next morning, chaos erupted in the office. Richard Sterling had found the note. He barged into the hallway, demanding to know who had written it. The executives scrambled, insisting none of them had, too proud to admit it. Finally, Clarence, pushing his mop nearby, cleared his throat. "Sir, it was me." The entire floor went silent. A billionaire CEO staring down at a janitor holding a mop. It was almost laughable. "Almost. You?" Richard narrowed his eyes. "You expect me to believe a janitor solved what my entire board couldn't?" Clarence didn't flinch. "Doesn't matter who I am, sir. What matters is the problem's fixed. You'll see it for yourself if you follow the flow I marked." Richard, half out of curiosity and half out of desperation, ordered his team to test it. Hours later, the results were undeniable. The leak was patched, the system secure, and the deal with Carson Tech back on track. Richard couldn't believe it. The man who had saved his company wasn't a high-paid consultant, but the janitor who swept his floors every night. That evening, Richard called Clarence into his office. For the first time, the billionaire's voice softened. "Tell me, Clarence, how did you know?" Clarence shrugged modestly. "I guess I just never stopped learning, sir. Even if life didn't give me the degree, I still kept studying. Sometimes the right answer comes from the person no one's listening to." Richard leaned back, studying the man who had just saved him from disaster. For once, he didn't see a janitor. He saw brilliance, resilience, and humility wrapped in one. "Clarence," Richard said finally, "from this day forward, you're not pushing mops. You're joining my team. And I'll make sure your daughter never has to struggle to finish her education." Tears welled in Clarence's eyes as he shook Richard's hand. For the first time in decades, someone had seen him, not just the uniform, not just the broom, but the man behind it. The story of Clarence Brown spread through the company like wildfire. Employees who once passed him without a glance now stopped to shake his hand. Executives whispered about how a janitor had done what they couldn't. And Richard? He never forgot the lesson he learned that day. Sometimes the smartest person in the room isn't the one in the tailored suit, it's the one you never thought to ask. Clarence went on to work with Sterling Enterprises as a systems analyst, proving time and again that genius has nothing to do with titles or paychecks. And when his daughter graduated college, Richard was right there in the front row, applauding. Because in the end, it wasn't just a janitor who solved a billionaire's biggest problem. It was a reminder that greatness can come from anywhere, and anyone,